Uh-oh, trouble in paradise as Bitcoin tumbles from its all-time high by approximately 8.5%, at least at the time of recording this video. So maybe even lower by the time you're watching. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I trust that you're doing well. In this video, we'll take a quick look at the price action of Bitcoin. I'll do a bit of a follow-up analysis from my last video. Is this the top? Is this going to be a correction? Is it just a pullback? Am I worried? So many questions. I'm so glad you asked. We're also going to take a look at the ETF inflows and outflows. We'll analyze the sentiment inside the market, and it turns out that the Inverse Cramer indicator is still operating with a 100% hit rate. So we'll take a look at that for some comic relief as well. So let's get into the video. And here the Bitcoin chart. This is the daily inside trading view. We can see from this wick right here, so the all-time high, down to where it's approximately trading right now, that it is down about 8.5%. Now, in the last video, I was pointing to a couple things that was suggesting that, hey, maybe a bit of a pullback might be imminent, and maybe it even leads to a greater correction. Now, just looking at this at first glance, we're only seeing a pullback so far. We're not seeing a greater correction here. I do view this kind of price action as not only normal, but also quite healthy. I hate to see it when things go absolutely straight up for too long without these kinds of pullbacks. This gives the market a little bit of an opportunity for the sentiment to reset. Some of the momentum indicators can have a chance to get back into a bullish posturing. So overall, this is quite healthy. But I am going to be coming back to this chart. I'm going to show you some price levels that I'm paying attention to if this pullback continues, and where things start to look like it might be turning into more of a correction versus a short-term pullback. So we'll come back to this chart later in the video. And popping over here to the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index by Bitcoin Magazine Pro, we can see that the Bitcoin Fear and Greed is still at 79 out of 100, which is considered extreme greed, even after an 8.5% pullback. But as I was mentioning last time we were looking at this chart, that when Bitcoin breaks its structure, starts going into price discovery, the Fear and Greed Index can stay very greedy almost the whole way up. You can see back here on the last bull market that when Bitcoin broke its structure, so the price is moving up, going into price discovery, that the Fear and Greed Index is basically extremely greedy almost all the way up. Makes sense. Bitcoin's going through price discovery. It's exciting. Everyone's trying to get their hands on it. You even see on this little pullback here in the past that Bitcoin, when it had that pullback, it only got down to about a 70 score on the Fear and Greed Index, which is still quite greedy. So I think that's kind of where we're at right now. Obviously, Bitcoin is broken out. It's in price discovery, putting in all-time highs. So it's very hard to use the Fear and Greed Index blindly as, say, a contrarian indicator that the top is in, that's it, we're going to zero. However, I do like to see it cool off a little bit when we get those pullbacks. So although it's still extremely greedy, it'd be nice that during this time, if it could cool off a little bit more and give the market a little bit of a chance to breathe here. So we'll continue to monitor this as we move along. Heading over to the total Bitcoin spot ETF net inflows and outflows, we can see right here that we're starting to get a little bit of outflows, which makes sense. Bitcoin's down 8.5%. You know, there's some profit taking on the spot market, even inside the ETFs. And we can see right now that we have an outflow of about 438 million, and that's across all the ETFs. So that comes out to approximately 4,811 Bitcoin, probably a little bit less than that as the profit taking began at a higher price point. And a little bit of funny news happening over here on X. We can see that Watcher Guru has just pointed out that just in, Bitcoin is down 8.2% from its all-time high since Jim Cramer said, all I can tell you is own Bitcoin. That's a winner. So we can clearly see that the Inverse Cramer indicator is still 100% accurate to this day. I guess it'll work until it doesn't. If we look down here, we can see fake Elon Musk account saying, I hate that guy. I don't know why, because if you just blindly counter traded this guy, you'd be rich by now. Not financial advice. And heading back into the price action of Bitcoin on a daily chart inside TradingView, we see that yesterday's candle body did close down below that red 10 simple moving average, and for the first time in a few weeks. We can see that Bitcoin has already tried to bounce to the upside in the earlier trading hours of the day, and it came up into the 10 simple, stabbing it with this wick right here, and getting a pretty quick rejection to the downside. So at least at the time of recording this video, the 10 simple moving average is acting as a little bit of resistance. Down below, looking at the volume signature, we're not seeing a heck of a lot here. I mean, it's not very impressive volume. Yes, it is increasing, so we'll pay attention to it to see if the sellers get any more aggressive. But right now, this volume to me just looks like profit taking, maybe from the ETF, so those outflows that we're seeing, and maybe any swing traders that got in for a swing trade somewhere in Bitcoin's price action down here. Either way, right now, the volume isn't suggesting that, oh, a top is in, we're going to zero. But we'll pay attention to it. If we see the volume increase any further or start to get aggressive, then we'll definitely take that into account, as I do like to take the market level by level with the macro in mind. Now, if we come down here to the RSI, like so, We can see that bearish divergence that I was pointing out in my last video right here, coming in at the extreme zone. And I was saying, hey, you know what? Bit of a warning shot fired that maybe we're going to get a pullback sometime soon, and maybe that pullback even leads into a greater correction. Now, we're not seeing a greater correction just yet. Bitcoin has not broke structure, but it just so happened the next day we got the dump, and we can see that the RSI has fallen out of the bullish control zone, and we do see the EMA taking on a negative slope up here as well. But one thing that I do like about this is I like how aggressively that this RSI is resetting itself. You know, we get a bit of a downside move for Bitcoin. Yeah, 8.5% is a pretty darn good move. But when you get corrections in Bitcoin in the context of a bull market, you can see 20, 30% corrections. That's when you have a meaningful correction. So to see the RSI resetting itself this quickly, that looks good. It looks to me that so far that maybe the RSI is setting itself up for a bit of a bullish reset. Remains to be seen. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. But if we look left, we can see that the RSI has been putting in a higher low structure along the way. So every single time Bitcoin has pulled back, we've gotten higher lows on the RSI, and maybe we're getting somewhere near another higher low. We'll see. But what that's telling us is every time that Bitcoin pulls back, the strength of the market comes in sooner and sooner and sooner. So the market's getting stronger and stronger and stronger as Bitcoin is moving to the upside. So it'll be fun to watch this. We'll pay attention to it. We'll see if we get another higher low on the RSI here in the coming days, as I'm more than happy to come back to these charts and give updated analysis. Down here in the stochastic momentum, we see that it's finally showing some signs it's going to get out of that extreme zone, as it's been quite nuclear for some time. We did get that confirmed cross to the downside, and if we look left, we can see that the stochastic 2 is also putting in a higher low structure along the way. So the bullish momentum is entering the market sooner and sooner and sooner. So just maybe we'll see the RSI come down, or sorry, the stochastic come down, maybe somewhere around the edge of the bullish control zone. So about a 60 read on the y-axis, somewhere in this area here. And maybe we even get a higher low on the RSI as well, rhyming with the RSI. And maybe Bitcoin finds a bit of footing. We see momentum start to curl back around. And then maybe Bitcoin makes another attempt at its previous all-time high that we just got, and maybe even a new all-time high. If we do see all of that take shape, maybe from that price level, we'll see a more meaningful correction if we're not going to get that now. But again, we'll take it level by level. So price areas to be paying attention to. I mean, we see Bitcoin right now coming into contact with this price right here. So maybe a little bit of short-term support. We see the 21 EMA just down below that coming up. Bitcoin is going to be closing another daily here in about 2 hours from the time of recording this video. So we'll probably see the 21 start to rise a little bit from here, coming into confluence with this price structure here. Now, where I think things get a little bit more ugly on this chart, where it might start to suggest that, hey, this is more than a pullback, maybe a correction, would be below this area. So I'll grab a rectangle here. I'm going to take it from those two candle bodies, and we'll go ahead and stretch it right down to this wick right here. I like to be a little bit more conservative about these price structures here. But if we see Bitcoin come down and start closing below the bottom side of this rectangle, on convincing volume, that might be starting to signal that, hey, let's pay a little bit more attention to this. It might be coming a bit more of a correction versus a pullback. It still would not be a death sentence. It just might be telling us at that point that maybe this correction is going to be a little bit more meaningful and lead to maybe even a better buying opportunity. So the bottom side of this purple box is coming in at approximately 85,000, and as the top side coming in at approximately 87,000. So as far as I'm concerned, if price action continues to pull back and comes anywhere down, around the top side of this purple box here, find some support, then this is likely just a short-term pullback. But closures below that level might be signaling that, hey, this is going to get a little bit deeper, as that would be breaking the short-term structure of price action here. Now, to the upside over time, what I'm looking for is a break above this level here. So obviously this is the all-time high. So breaking up above that is going to put Bitcoin back into price discovery, and likely will be pushing much higher at that point in time. So the bottom side of this box here is coming in at approximately 99,000, and as a top side at approximately 100,000. So wherever Bitcoin picks itself back up from inside this range between these two purple box zones, as long as we start seeing those candle bodies coming up, putting in some closures up above that level, that's going to be pretty darn good confirmation that Bitcoin's going to push to another all-time high, obviously, because anything above that purple box is yet another all-time high. Now, if we do get that in the coming days or weeks, whatever, then maybe from that price point, we get a more meaningful correction where we get that 20 to 30% down. But as this sits right now, structure has not been broken. So for me, just a pullback. If we start closing below this box right here, then that would be signaling that the sellers are a little bit more powerful than we initially thought. And there you have it, everyone. That's what I got for you in this video, but I'd love to hear what you're thinking about this. Do you think that the top is in? Do you think this is just a short-term pullback? Or do you think we're going to get a more meaningful correction that leads to another really good buy opportunity? Make sure to leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thanks so much for coming by and checking out this video. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one. And until I do, have yourself a powerful day.